Well, thankfully we got Ummagumma out of our system, or Ummaguma as some of you have pointed out, and we've reached a new decade with 1970's Adam Hart Mother. A much better release, and a good sign of things to come. This is also where it becomes imperative to start listening to these albums on vinyl in one sitting, hence why I picked up this copy. But is it cohesive enough to deserve a goldfish? Well, we're gonna find out. The band had just finished working on the soundtrack for Zabriskie Point, a film by Michelangelo Antonioni of Blow Up fame. It's another avant-garde film, but Antonioni does incorporate some unique cinematography, and knew how to incorporate music with it. Essentially, Antonioni really just wanted a re-recorded version of Careful What That Axe, Eugene, to be played over the explosion sequence at the end, and most of Pink Floyd's new material was not used in the film. Fortunately, the recorded material has since been released, and some of it is very good, like Love Scene version 6 is the slow blues I really wanted on More. And the most notable outtake is Rick's piano piece called The Violent Sequence.
I would sing the piano, and I happened to have this violent sequence up. I just started the chord sequence. At the time, I think everyone thought this is really good.
Which would eventually be incorporated into Dark Side of the Moon. Soundtracks seem to be a good way of getting the creative juices flowing, and the piece Adam Hart Mother really came from David Gilmour, originally called Theme from an Imaginary Western. Not to be confused with the Jack Bruce song.
Adam Hart Mother was like a movie soundtrack to an epic movie that didn't exist.
The band was keen on producing a full piece that would essentially take up one full side of the album.
It was already a complete piece before Ron came on the scene.
Meanwhile, Roger Waters had been working with Ron Jeeson for a documentary called The Body, where they combined traditional elements with bodily sounds. So Jeeson was brought in to orchestrate the piece.
I suppose because Roger could see that I could work.
The way Rick's organ gradually rises in volume and is joined by Jeeson's haunting orchestration sets the tone for this piece, teasing some of the motifs to come. I love the way the band just explodes from the chaos of the orchestra, like they've rode into this western town to take the reins. There's even the sound effects of galloping horses and gunshots, replaced by the sound of a motorcycle to add to the tension. And from there, it's a series of pieces, all titled in their own right, exploring the interplay between the band, the orchestral instruments, and a choir. In the second piece, a solo cello is replaced by Dave's slide guitar. A choral piece leads into a funky jam. It obviously wouldn't be Pink Floyd without some avant-garde soundscapes, used to much better effect than those heard on Ummagumma. The main theme returns twice near the end, feeling like you've come home from this amazing journey. When you listen to Adam Hart Mother, it really does sound like the Pink Floyd we all know and love. But it's not perfect. One issue that arose was that due to the new 1-inch tape machine Abbey Road had just implemented, they had to record the entire piece in one go without any cuts of the tape.
Maybe there would be problems if it was edited. Consequently, Roger and I had to do the backing tracks in one pass.
This piece being over 20 minutes long made that difficult to achieve.
We probably took about the third take where we actually got all the way through it because it was so difficult for us to remember where the hell we were in the piece. From then on, the thing in some ways went downhill.
Also, the orchestration does sometimes feel disjointed from the piece, and it feels like it drags at times, especially during that choral part.
Some of the rhythms didn't match up.
That's probably why the band themselves were displeased with the final product.
The brass section that we used were not very experienced at recording.
They didn't give a shit. They just wanted to have their beer and get pissed. It was kind of very weird.
I do find their live renditions of Adam Hart Mother, sans the orchestra, to be quite enjoyable, seeing them cover this lush piece with just the four of them. I often wondered if the cow on the cover had some kind of tie-in with the piece. But according to Storm, the more pastoral image was meant to deviate from the space rock theme they'd become known for.
It doesn't relate to the music at all. What we wanted to do was a nun cover, so we went out and shot a cow.
Don't have a cow, Dad.
Which does make sense. Adam Hart Mother feels much more grounded than anything they've done up to this point. Even on side 2, where they employed the same song per band member tactic, but to much better results. Roger's up first with a song called If, another soft acoustic number. I like this one better than Grantchester Meadows. Some flowing poetry here, but also very melancholic and probably introspective on Roger's part. The line, "If I go insane, please don't put your wires in my brain," is my favorite on the record, and definitely foreshadows things to come. If has slowly grown on me over the years, but overall, I do think it goes on too long. The best of these numbers might be Rick's upbeat Summer 68. No, Summer of 68, not 69. Lyrically, while it doesn't quite have the flow of If, it does tell the story of a fling Rick had with a groupie, or possibly several groupies, while on the road. Rick's calm voice really reflects the emptiness he feels from these one-night stands. That classical-style interlude near the end is hauntingly beautiful, and probably my favorite thing on the record. This is the Rick Wright vocal composition we've been waiting for since Remember a Day, and one of the finest that he wrote on his own. Unfortunately, we still have mixing problems. The piano's really compressed, and once again, the vocals sound very buried. I wish they would remix this number, because I think it really shows off Rick's songwriting skills, being in line with that Brian Wilson style he was hoping Sid would envelop. Dave's up next with his song Fat Old Son, which is much improved from his songwriting efforts on Amaguma. In fact, he continues to play it to this day. The song introduces that nostalgic theme of Dave's boyhood that would appear in his later catalog. It's also killer when his guitar solo comes in. My only wish is that it kind of took off a bit more at the end, and the fact that Dave is playing all the instruments minus Rick's keyboards does make this kind of a sloppy track. Still, for all their shortcomings, these individual songs do show off the band's individual strengths: Roger's lyrics, Rick's harmonic structure, and Dave's vocal and guitar melodies. Imagine if they combined all these elements. The last number, Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, named after roadie Alan Stiles, whose voice is heard throughout the piece, is the album's closest tie to Amaguma, a 13-minute-long avant-garde piece. It combines a number of tapes compiled by Nick Mason of Alan making breakfast. You know, I had at one point thought of putting out a joke track called Seriously, Just Me Naming Things in My Kitchen. Okay, we've got English muffins, an apple, we got a protein bar, we've also got beer, courtesy of Cafe Wa, you're welcome. Let's look in the cabinet. We've got... Get away! Get away! And it's not far off from this piece. They do cut back and forth to actual musical pieces, which are nice, but they're not much to write home about, and leave the album on a somewhat anticlimactic note. I was really hoping to spin this vinyl record and appreciate it enough to give it the first goldfish of the series. There's a lot to appreciate here, and it feels like Pink Floyd is heading in the right direction. Great guitar playing, great keyboard textures, some more well-utilized sonic experimentation all form an enjoyable listening experience. But there's just too many low points weighing down the high points for me to recommend shelving money for a vinyl record, which is what I did, and honestly I can't see myself spinning it as often as their greatest works. So, I'll have to give Adam Hartmuther a spotted fish. Still worth checking out, but not essential. And you know, I was going to give the title track essential status, but I really need to give it to Rick's Summer 68. I just think it's a great showing of his talents. The main piece has more shortcomings, but I do still consider it a highlight. And also check out Dave's Fat Old Son, and I'll give credit to Roger's flowing lyrics on If. It's weird, this is almost the entire album. I guess you might as well listen to the whole thing. You know, I feel kind of bad that we're 5 albums in and I haven't given a single goldfish. In fact, you might be noticing that Piper at the Gates of Dawn is still sitting up there because, as far as I'm concerned, I don't feel any of these albums have topped it. But that may change soon because we've got Metal coming up, along with some other heavy hitters, so I'll see you then.